Hey, what's up, bro? I did it. I finally did it. I finally upgraded the sound system in my C6 Corvette, and today I'm going to be giving you an overview of how you can get the best possible sounding sound system for your C6 Corvette under $5,000. I'm going to be giving you the build sheet of all the parts that were used, why they were used, and if you don't have a sound system in your Corvette, maybe this video will convince you to want to get one. Now, here's a funny story. I bought this car 4 years ago, and when I bought the car, there was one thing that I never liked about it, and as you guessed it, it was the sound system. Sound system was garbage. So this car looks like a high-end baddie, but in reality, it's a basic bitch. As basic as you can get them is a 1LT package. It doesn't have the heads-up display, heated seats. It obviously doesn't have the Bose stereo system. So yeah, I hate to say it, this car is a basic bitch, but she looks fine as hell, so I'd still smash. All right, so let's go inside and let me give you the walkthrough. But wait, before we start, I know what you're gonna say. I know what the vanilla color people are gonna say. Why do you need a sound system? This is a sports car. All you gotta do is rev up the car. You got the exhaust note already. You don't need a sound system. You probably don't need a sound system to be bumping Sweet Caroline through the suburbs. But me, I'm built different. I'm just a guy that likes Corvettes, and I want to build the car to get the best possible driving experience. And to me, I want to be able to get in the car, drop the top, listen to some slappers, and that's what makes me happy. It may not make you happy, but it makes me happy. So I'm gonna try to keep this simple. There are way too many different brands and different types of speakers. There are actually more speakers than there are hosts in Pacific Beach. So I guess the best way I can simplify it is there are two-way speakers, three-way speakers, kind of like the bolt-on speakers that pretty much do all at once. The ease of installation is there, but they don't give you the best clarity possible because the speaker is doing multiple things at once. There's something magical called a component speaker, which can be separated and playing a specific frequency. So since this car has multiple speaker locations, I decided to go with the component speakers to get the full range of sound, pretty much feel like you're submerged 360 in the music, especially when listening to well-produced albums. You can get a component speaker that plays the mids, one that plays the highs, obviously one for the low frequency, which is the bass. So one thing I want to get out of the way is the fact that I actually, for the first time, I had to take my car to have somebody else work on it. And I've done sound systems on my shit boxes from the 80s, but for the Corvette, it's a Corvette, you can't be setting it like that. I wanted something special, something high-end. So I just bit the bullet and decided to take it to a shop. Make this happen way faster and with way better quality than I can. So let's start off with the tweeters. For the tweeters, these are some Audison AP2. So what I like about these is that they allow you to play the volume really high up. You still get that clarity. You can still hear all the instruments. Everything sounds super, super crisp. This pretty much is in charge of playing the high frequencies. Down here, this is the 8-inch subwoofer. Also from Audison, this is the AP8. We decided to go with Audison because they were the ones that had a design. It was large enough to be able to retain the OEM size, but it was also shallow enough to work with the size of the door because, as you know, these doors are pretty slim. And that product was available. We didn't have to special order anything. The cone on the subwoofer is actually made out of paper. I would have preferred a different material, but the benefit of going with the paper cone is that it has more surface area, which means it gives you a little bit more bass, a little bit more strength. So actually, if you just had this subwoofer right here in the door, you actually don't need a box. For regular people, this sounds good enough to where you can enjoy the music. You can get all the vocals, the high frequencies from the tweeter right here, and then you got just enough bass with this 8-inch. A lot of people like to put the 6x9s, or maybe you go to a 6.5, but that's not necessary when you have a product like this, because at the end of the day, the engineers decided that you should be packing 8 inches under here, tucked away nicely. Even though the bass may be enough, I still believe that you need a box, because that's like drinking sparkling water. You can kind of taste it. It kind of tastes good, but not quite. Something's missing. And that's how I feel about a sound system without a subwoofer. Yeah, there's the disadvantage that it's a little bit heavier, but at the end of the day, who cares? You really get to feel the music. We obviously don't care about the center speaker. These cars have a pretty whack center speaker that when it's connected, it actually links up the front speakers, puts them in series, and makes it really hard to time align and tune. So almost everybody that I've seen do Audison Corvettes, they just end up disconnecting the speaker. And that's also what was done in this setup. Let's quickly talk about something very, very important, and that's gonna be the head unit. if you look at it, it looks very flush, it's got that OEM look, and that's honestly specifically why I chose this head unit. This is the Pioneer 4660, and that was the main choosing point, is that I did not like the way the Sony buttons pop out right here at the bottom. It doesn't look flush. I wanted the simplicity of this one where you can almost barely see them, and the pros actually suggested that the Kenwood Exelon is actually a better head unit than the Pioneer. But bro, at the end of the day, it's all about the looks. You gotta make it look sexy. That's why I chose this head unit. If it gives me trouble, then I'll consider changing to the Kenwood with the ugly little touchpad right here. But as of now, I'm happy with this because it gives me a backup camera. Also have the Apple CarPlay. It's got all the good features that you can look up. As of now, this is a major upgrade to what was in the car before. Actually, the main reason why I decided to upgrade the whole entire system is because I was rocking the original head unit, right? And as you know, Drake and Kendrick Lamar have been beefing, and just the heat that's been coming out of both of those two, it was way too much for my head unit to handle. And actually the head unit got stuck max volume and I couldn't turn it down. So when I was listening to Family Matters, I couldn't bring it down, which I obviously wasn't planning on doing because that song slaps. Two speakers ended up blowing up completely, and the rest of the speakers that were working, every time the 808s hit, it was like you had a metal bucket full of metal spoons in it rattling around. And that's the reason why we're making this video right now. So one of the things that I'm actually most excited about is that I don't have to rely on that stupid little aux cord and that lame ass adapter for iPhone to be able to play music. That was so freaking embarrassing. Now for the rear speakers, we actually went with coaxial speakers, and don't expect me to pronounce that right, but these are from Hertz, and they're actually also very good quality. These are the CX30. So pretty much the reason why coaxials were used in the rear, since we already have the quality isolated right there in the front, this pretty much fills the gap. It pretty much amplifies everything, makes it sound more powerful. Now when it comes to speaker brands, some brands that I really enjoyed the sound of were Hertz, Helix, Audison, and Focal. So those were the main ones that I personally like how they sounded. So you don't necessarily need to have the same exact speakers that I have on here, because there's definitely different brands that would sound good. And the word itself, best, is relative. Some speakers may sound really good on paper, but if you actually listen to them, you may not like the sound of them. So another reason why I wanted to take it into a shop is because I wanted to sample a few speakers and find out exactly which one sounded best to my ears. So actually one of the craziest parts of this build is going to be the amplifiers. So we have two different amplifiers, one specifically for the subwoofer, and then we have one for the speakers. So the amplifier that we're actually using for the speakers is going to be the Audison Forza AP8.9. So the cool thing about the amplifier, it's got a built-in DSP, digital signal processor. So what that does, it pretty much allows you to put really high output without having to put an excessive load on the charging system. So that amplifier alone is an 8-channel amplifier. So that means that each speaker gets its own little channel. The more channels you have, the more tunability you have. When you start sharing speakers, the quality starts dropping a little bit, and that amplifier is actually tucked away right there. It fits nicely on the OEM location. As far as with the subwoofer box, there was a bit of a compromise. The subwoofer box is usually recommended to go further back into the back of the car. That way the bass can build up. It sounds a lot deeper. On these cars, the batteries in the back, you definitely gotta be able to access it, especially because the battery is always dying on these cars. Putting the subwoofer towards the back with the bigger box is out of the question. You also can't put it in the middle, because if you have a non-CO6, non-CR1, then when you want to take off the Targa and put it here, the box will obviously get in the way, so that doesn't work. So in that case, you think maybe we can push it further forward, get a bigger box, but then the issue that you run into is that it'll be too close to the rear speakers and it might even be blocking them. So this is pretty much the best setup you can have without giving away anything. The only thing you are giving away would be the lack of bass. Now, right now it has the APS-10 S4S, which they're not entry level. You can tell by the way the box is tailored and just by the face of the subwoofers that this is no entry level stuff. So these are shallow mounted and they're made to be played in a sealed box like this one. Now these are 10 inches obviously, but with the time alignment, it makes it feel like they're 12s. So you can always find ways to make up for the lack of inches. You just gotta get creative. Now, another reason why the Audison was a good call for this subwoofer, if I'm being honest, it's purely because it looks badass. I love the look of it. Products like the JL subwoofer, they may give really good bass, but they just don't look as good as this. That's one of the requirements for doing any sort of mods in my car. It has to freaking look sexy. So yeah, it's a small box, but the subwoofer choice was meticulously calculated to get the most out of the space that we have. And when we pair that with the D-Class Hertz amplifier that we have right here, It gives you the best sound you can possibly get out of the sub, and it's nice and concealed right here in the storage box in the trunk of the car. When they completed the sound system, they actually ended up tuning it by ear, made it sound as best as possible. The results were incredible, but what I find even more impressive is that with this Pioneer head unit, it's got a couple of preset EQs. I like the natural and the powerful mode. They make it sound so much better, and I feel like you get the most out of the sound system even though it's already been tuned. There's also this one feature called the dynamic bass enhancer, and I feel like it just makes everything sound so much better. When I had all those features turned off, I actually felt like I needed a bigger box, but once I started messing with those settings, it makes the bass feel even more powerful. I don't feel a need to upgrade even further, but if I wanted to, I do have that ability because I have the upgraded amps that can handle it. If it came down to it, I could compromise, maybe putting the Targa in the back, get a bigger box, but as of now, I'm truly happy. So when it comes to audio, my knowledge is entry level. Actually, all the technical details about the audio system, I actually learned for this video. I Tony Starked the shit out of everything, just stayed up overnight, learning everything there is to learn about sound systems to be able to better describe the sound that I wanted out of my C6 Corvette. So if any of the information that I'm saying is incorrect, just type in the right information down in the comments. I'm obviously not a pro, and that's why I decided to have the pros handle the freaking installation. So I know you, bro. You obviously want to hear the sound test, and I'm honestly trying to figure out how I can do this without getting copyrighted. But we'll try it. We'll try it a few different ways, and we'll see if you can appreciate how good the sound sounds. Let's try to do it this way. Let's try to see how it sounds walking into the system.
Brick on my chest, it's keeping me cool. I get on the jet, I feel like a mule. So many
pushing on them gears, pushing on them gears. Gran Turismo, running game on them. This is custom kitted with the paint on them. Forza Motorsport, change lanes on them. Twist the metal gang, throw the flame on them. Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman.
I'm sure you can definitely build a way better system if you have the budget, if you're able to save on the labor. The installation, everything that was done to the car was actually $4 grand. But when you take into consideration buying the head unit, the bezels, the wiring, the interface, all those little things, the backup camera, ends up being close to $5 grand. But actually $1,000 out of the whole deal was labor. If you're able to do it on your own, you can actually use the extra grand and find even better parts to make it sound even better. For me, for what I wanted, not wanting to work on the car myself, actually ended up working perfectly, and I'm super happy with the results. So one last thing, I want to give a shout out to Audiolux, which is the shop that decided to take on this job, and they freaking did a fantastic installation. Highly recommend them. They're in Santee of all the places. It's actually a pretty good shop. They work on anything from Cybertrucks, Rolls Royce, motorcycles, and they don't just do audio, so go ahead and check them out. But most of all, I'm so happy that this is crossed off the list. That way I can focus on other mods that I can do myself. And you're gonna see those mods on the next coming videos. I don't even have to tell you, but I already know you're gonna be back. We'll see you next week.